And now, authors, writers, books, and beyond. This program also streams live on the web at tspntv.com and can be watched on demand at tspntv.com or TSPN TV's YouTube channel. And now, authors, writers, books, and beyond.
Hi, welcome to the Authors, Writers, Books, and Beyond show. My name is Kathy Boyd-Valeur, and I welcome you once a month to this really incredible show where I get to introduce you to authors, writers, journalists, film, arts, just about anything beyond I want to go. And this month, the month of April, I have really special guests. We're in journalism today, and I think you'll find this show particularly interesting. Exceedingly interesting. I'm hoping you do. My guests over here, Scott Thomas Anderson.
Hello.
Welcome, Scott. And Rahim Hosseini.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome. I would love for you to tell TV Land people here a little about yourselves before we get into the show, because I don't know if they know you guys or not.
Starting with me? Or?
Yeah, let's start with you, Scott. You're right next to me.
So, been a journalist almost 9 years now. Raheem and I worked together for several years at the Ledger Dispatch. I'm now currently the editor and news director for all the newspapers in South Placer County, so Roseville, Rockland, and Granite Bay. And of course, I've done a couple national projects the last few years. So Shadow People, and the new book that just came out a couple weeks ago, The Cutting Four Piece.
The Cutting Four Piece.
Both works of journalism.
You want to show it real quick?
Cutting Four Piece, just released.
It's a great cover.
Okay, you want to go next? Just
Yeah.
say hello and then.
Hey, so Raheem Hosseini. I'm a staff writer at the Sacramento News and Review. As Scott said, worked at the Amador Ledger Dispatch for almost 3 years as the editor, and couple of years before that, 3 months as a reporter. It's a long story. And I've knocked around, as you do in the world of journalism, worked for several papers, and I've been a staff writer at SNR for 3 years now. Do a lot of sort of long-form journalism projects, as well as random features and kind of catch it all. But a lot of, like Scott, a lot of criminal justice reporting.
Criminal justice.
And a lot of investigative work. Raheem does a lot of investigative work.
So you guys you've teamed up for that too, haven't you?
Yeah, we worked together on 2 really big projects for Sacramento News and Review, both of which involved pretty unusual crimes that happened in Amador County. So.
Well, out there in TV land, I know Scott from, he's our liaison for Amador Fiction Writers, and our group meets at Clark's Corner. You've been there recently. Scott just did his second book launch there, Clark's Corner and Ione, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Clark's real quick. Do you mind? I'm going to brag about you a little bit here. Good turnout. I felt that you were really informative. Your talk was actually phenomenal. It was an interesting Q&A session, and you really answered the questions, I think, that were pursued, especially for some people. So it was a place for book launches and coffee and et cetera, but your launch, I thought, was particularly valuable to the community.
Well, I said at the start of that Q&A that I wasn't going to duck any questions,
and you didn't.
I tried not to.
That's important. That's really important. So you guys, if you get a chance, go on down there anytime, 12 West Main Street in Ione, check them out for things similar to what Scott did, and my group goes there a lot for our signings. Hopefully we'll see you there one day.
It's one of the great Amador County venues right now.
Yeah.
For sure.
You want to talk a little about what you're writing now?
Yeah, sure. As I figure it out.
Okay.
I'm working on a few pieces right now. I think the one for next week is focusing on the Sacramento regional transit system and security on light rail. I also just started looking into license plate readers. There's a contract that one of our law enforcement agencies received that interested in buying. They're purchasing and installing more license plate readers in their department vehicles and at certain stationary points. And I just started piecing that one together. And then
Is there a method to how they pick those stationary points?
I think so. I think it has to do with high traffic areas where they want to get the most bang for their buck in terms of what they're capturing data-wise. And I think my next larger project is either going to be a cover story that has to do with prostitution in the city of Sacramento and the southern part of the city and bleeding into the unincorporated county a bit. The rates of it, what we're seeing since this San Francisco website known as Redbook was thought to be an escort site was brought down by the federal authorities. And potentially a mental health related cover story as well.
Was that the escort that was in the news last year?
Yeah. Based in the Bay Area, and the feds cracked down on it, and a lot of sex workers used it not only to book clients, but also as a way to share information with each other and screen clients and ward each other away from potentially dangerous clients.
And one of the two big investigative pieces Raheem and I have worked together on involved an escort being abducted.
I remember that.
Being abducted here in Amador County.
Yes.
An escort from Sacramento was abducted in Amador County and held for hours and tortured in various ways. So there is a huge safety concern for people in that job.
You were talking a little bit ago, too, about the crimes you covered together up here that were unusual. Can you talk about that?
That was one.
I remember that one.
That was one because of this extreme. It stands out. I don't know about. For me, it stands out in my mind because of the depravity involved. We couldn't even get into details on the show in terms of what happened to that victim. But then we also worked on.
And I think it's unusual. It was also unusual because you rarely have a case in which someone from that field of work is such a willing participant in the prosecution and really fought to have that case, to see that case through and have justice done. Most of the violence against sex workers goes unreported because they just don't feel like police will or law enforcement will take their complaints seriously. The
case we wrote about here in Amador County, she felt like law enforcement took her seriously, met her, and they pursued the case aggressively. The district attorney pursued the case aggressively.
And is that rare?
Well, so she's from Sacramento, but that particular crime started in Amador County, even though they took her all over the area.
To the Bay Area.
Down eventually to the Bay Area where they threatened to kill her numerous times. It was prosecuted by Amador because that's where she was abducted. But I think what Raheem's getting at is, and I've met a number of, being a crime reporter for a long time, I've met a number of girls involved in the profession too. And they've told me the same thing Raheem's heard, that they feel like in a lot of jurisdictions, law enforcement might not take it that seriously, or there's just a lot of mistrust, right?
Yeah, rightly or wrongly, they feel they can't report crimes to law enforcement because they themselves will get in trouble. I think one of the interesting things that came out of that project is the state victims board, compensation board for victims, which okays money for relocation or health benefits to victims of crime. They changed a policy that for 17 years automatically ruled out victims of crime if they were working in the sex trade, because it was this alarming policy that considered them complicit in the crime itself, even in cases of sexual assault. And so something that came out of that story, and a lot of the activists who had been working on that issue for a year, was that policy was changed like a week after the story came out.
And frankly, anyone who read the story knows that it did raise some questions about how our own hospital treated her.
Up here,
how Sutter Amador treated her the night of the crime. And there were a lot of people on the record who spoke to that. So her victim's advocate and to some extent law enforcement. So you have to have that conversation public at some point. The attitudes people have.
Yeah, well, the law is either for everybody or it isn't.
Right.
Everybody deserves protection. What was another? Can you talk about another one before we're going to go to break in a minute and a half? So I guess
Happens case.
How do you summarize that?
we could do that next
Quick
one.
Yeah, we can do that quickly.
So, can you real quick? We have a minute and a half. Tell me how you got into journalism. Are you from this area?
From the Sacramento area, suburbs of Sacramento, Citrus Heights and Roseville, grew up there. I was an English major in college, though, and after graduating, I was looking for a job that forced me to write a lot and learn a lot. So kind of got into it by happenstance, almost.
Did you go to Sac State?
No, I went to Berkeley.
Berkeley, okay. I'm going to have to ask you next time, because we're going to have to wind down here pretty soon. I grew up in Fair Oaks.
Okay.
Born in Sacramento, but grew up in the Fair Oaks suburb, right next there to Citrus Heights.
Yeah.
Yeah, great little area, too.
Chickens, wild
Yeah,
chickens.
chickens.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't there. I'm older than you, Raheem.
Okay.
They weren't there when I was...
Really?
No, someone brought them in. They still, to this day, cannot find out who. No one claims it.
Okay.
But
Your
they
next
do-
investigating piece.
Yes.
Boy, you do not know how
Write
many
that
people
down.
you'd make happy. So we're going to come back in a little bit, and Scott will tell us how he got into it and into journalism, and I hope you will join us for part 2 of Authors, Writers, Books, and Beyond. Thank you so much.